My name is Florence. I am 58 years old. Last month I walked out of my son's house with a single suitcase and tears streaming down my face. Not because I was sad to leave, but because I had finally accepted something I never thought I would. After 30 years of raising my son, giving him every ounce of love, time, and sacrifice I had, he looked me in the eye and called me a parasite. That word still echoes in my head, parasite. I had just told him I had left my job and wanted to come home to rest. He didn't ask why. He didn't ask if I was okay. He didn't say thank you for anything I'd done. Instead, he told me I was a burden, huh? It was the moment something shifted inside me. I had swallowed my pride for decades, convincing myself that being a good mother meant always putting him first, always giving, always sacrificing. But when he said that, I realized he never truly saw me as his mother. He saw me as a paycheck, and so I left, not just the house, but the role I had played for far too long. This is not just a story about betrayal. This is a story about waking up, about reclaiming dignity, and about what happens when the person you raised to stand tall uses your back to climb. Let me take you back to where it all began. I met Brian when he was just a year old. Back then, I was volunteering at a child welfare center downtown. He was so small, barely breathing, his lips tinged blue from a congenital heart defect. The staff said he'd been abandoned in a dumpster by his birth parents, a passer. I heard his faint cries and brought him in. I still remember the moment his tiny eyes locked onto mine. There was fear, but also a silent plea. Something inside me broke open. At the time I was married. My husband Richard was a practical man. He wanted a biological child. I wanted to save Brian. We argued for weeks. In the end, he gave me a choice: send Brian back to the orphanage or raise him alone. I didn't even hesitate. I left with Brian. No child support, no home of my own, just fierce determination to give this fragile boy a future. What followed were years of sacrifice. I worked double shifts, waited tables, cleaned homes. At night, I sat at the kitchen table making handmade crafts to sell at local markets. When Brian got better, I thought things would get easier. They didn't. To support his education and to afford the surgery he needed, I took a live-in job as a housekeeper with a wealthy widow named Charlotte. I lived in her home for years, sending money back to help Brian through school. I missed birthdays, holidays, graduations just so he could have everything I never did. Eventually, he met Diana. They got married. Her family, well off and proud, always looked down on me. Diana's mother, Carol, once said to my face, "You've done enough. Let us raise him properly now." Still, I stayed quiet. I even helped them buy a house, scraped together every penny to cover the down payment, furniture, appliances. But I never put my name on anything because I trusted them, because I believed love would be enough. And for years, I kept working, kept giving so they wouldn't have to struggle. Until the day I walked into that house, no longer able to continue, and Brian called me a burden. That was the thanks I got for choosing him over everything else, for surviving on barely anything, so he could have everything. You'd think, after 3 decades of giving, I'd be seen as a mother, but I was just a maid. They didn't have to pay, and soon I would find out just how little I really meant to them. I had just come home from my last day working for Charlotte. It was a difficult goodbye. She had become like family to me, but I felt it was time. My body was tired and I wanted to finally spend time with Brian and his wife. I wanted to be there when they started their own family, but I didn't even get to explain. I barely stepped through the door when Brian snapped. "You left that job? Are you serious?" He shouted. "That was $8,000 a month. What are you going to do now? Sit around?" Freeloading. Freeloading. I stood there in silence, stunned. I had imagined coming home would bring some warmth. I thought maybe they'd be happy to see me again, but in his eyes I wasn't a mother. I was a problem. I tried to change the subject. I mentioned Diana's pregnancy plans. "Didn't you say you were thinking about having a baby soon?" I figured I'd come back early to help out, cook, clean, support her. Diana stared at me like I just insulted her. "We'll hire professionals," she said coldly. "Postpartum recovery requires trained care, not whatever you used to do," her mother Carol chimed in without hesitation. "Taking care of a newborn isn't just about diapers and bottles, it's a science." I swallowed my pride, forcing a smile. "Of course, if you already have everything arranged, I won't interfere." Carol's eyes narrowed. "You can still contribute, though. We'll need a night nurse, a nanny. Those costs add up. You'll handle those expenses. I'll manage the hearing." I blinked, stunned, before I could even process her words. Brian added, "She's right, Mom. You should have never quit that job. Our expenses are about to double. We need your support now more than ever." That's when it hit me. They didn't want me home to rest. They wanted me to keep working. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as a steady income stream. "I'm 58, I said quietly. "I think it's time I rest." Brian laughed, actually. Laughed. "Rest? You don't even have pension." I reminded him why I didn't. "Because I used that money to pay off their mortgage. You told me it was a good idea." Diana scoffed. "That's because your income was pathetic. You bought a house you couldn't afford without a loan. That was your mistake." Brian tried to calm her down, but only to reinforce the point. "You're in great shape. You can still work another 20 years. Save the retirement talk for when you're 80. 80, my stomach sank. They expected me to keep going until I broke, until I had nothing left to give. That was the moment I saw it clearly. The love I thought they had for me was conditional, transactional. Back when Brian was in college, I moved to another city just to save enough money to help him and Diana buy that house. I gave everything, and they promised with tears in their eyes that they'd take care of me one day. "You'll finally get the life you deserve," they said. Now I know what they meant. A life of endless labor. A life where I was useful only as long as I kept giving. But I was done being useful. I was ready to be respected. And I was about to show them exactly what happens when you mistake silence for weakness. I packed my things that same night. There wasn't much, just a suitcase with some clothes and a few personal items. I didn't take anything else from that house, not even the old photo of us on the mantle. It no longer meant what I thought it did. As I walked to the door, Carol stopped me. "You can't just leave like this," she said. "Where are you even going? There's no spare room for you here. You can't seriously think you'll just live here forever." Then she smiled, like she had a solution. "I actually know a wealthy family looking for a living assistant, room and board included. Good pay. You've done that kind of work before. It should be an easy transition." Diana jumped in immediately. "Perfect. And whatever you earn, you can use to help with our household expenses. It's a win-win." That's when I realized they weren't just hopping I'd keep working. They had Already planned it. They decided I would. Go back to being a maid, that I would. Clean, serve, obey so they could. Continue living comfortably. I looked them dead in the eye. I already quit and I'm not going back into anyone's house. To work again. Carol's face hardened. Then, maybe you should look into senior housing. There's a facility nearby. They let people your age stay if they take on light duties, kitchen help, janitorial work. You'd be pulling your own weight. Brian added, Mom, don't be dramatic. You've always said you wanted to be independent. Isn't this the most dignified way to do that? That word. Again, dignity, as if mine only existed when it served their needs. Then in front of me, Brian pulled out his phone and started dialing the retirement facility. That was it. The child I'd raised, the one I carried through sickness and fear and uncertainty, was trying to send me to a work-based senior shelter like I was some stray dog. What he didn't know was that I wasn't broke, far from it. Catherine Blake, the woman I had worked for all those years, she had no children of her own. She left her estate to the one person she trusted most. Me. The paperwork had finalized just a week before I came home. $8 million. Transferred legally, irrevocable. And not a single soul in that house knew, but they were about to find out that the price of betrayal was far more expensive than they could ever afford. A week later, I walked into a luxury real estate showroom downtown. It was a bright, elegant space with marble floors, sparkling chandeliers, and glossy brochures stacked like wedding invitations. I was there to buy a home, one that would finally belong to me. A young woman with a friendly smile greeted me at the entrance. Hi, ma'am. Would you like me to walk you through our featured listings? I nodded. Yes, please, I'd like to see the model homes. We had barely taken 10 steps when a sharp voice cut through the room. Who's handling screening today? Are we just letting anyone in now? I turned and saw her. Emily Walsh, Carol's niece, Brian's cousin by marriage. We had met a few times before. Always the same air of superiority. Always the same fake smile. She stormed over her heels, clicking like gavel strikes. Margaret, what are you doing here? She sneered. Don't tell me you're here to look at properties. You can't seriously think someone like you can afford this place. I kept my tone even. I'm here to view a home. Is that a problem? She laughed and waved over 2 security guards. Escort her out. She's just here for the free coffee. People started whispering. I could feel eyes on me, judging, assuming. But I didn't flinch. I held up a folder and said calmly, my documents were verified at the entrance. Emily snatched the folder from my hands. She flipped through the pages and scoffed. $5 million. You expect us to believe that you were a maid? This has to be fake. The young assistant beside me looked nervous, but I gently said, it's all right, let's show everyone. I took out my phone, opened my banking app, and held up the screen. The numbers spoke for themselves. 8 million fully accessible. Gasps rippled through the room. Suddenly, the whispers changed tone from doubt to disbelief. All respect, someone behind me murmured, she's got serious money. Emily turned pale, her confidence draining in real time, but she still tried. This app could be fake, she stammered. There's no way. The showroom manager stepped in. Alex Lee. Calm, professional. Ma'am, he said to me, on behalf of our team, I sincerely apologize. I'll assign our most experienced agent to assist you right away. I shook my head. No need. The young lady who greeted me, she's fine. I want her to handle my purchase Alex hesitated. She's still in training. I like her. She treated me with respect. He nodded quickly. Absolutely, Monica. Please assist our distinguished guest. Emily stood frozen. On the side, humiliated. I pointed to a beautifully designed villa on the scale model. I'd like to see that one. That day I didn't just buy a home. I bought back my dignity. And I wasn't done yet. At first, I thought walking away would be the end of it, but Brian wasn't done with me. A week after I moved into my new villa, a neighbor gently pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I don't know how to say this, but have you seen what your son's posting online?" I hadn't. I went home, opened my laptop and searched. There it was, a live stream channel titled How My Mother Abandoned Me. His face filled the screen, tears in his eyes, voice trembling, but it wasn't sorrow, it was performance. He said things like, "She never really loved me. She left when I needed her most. When my wife got pregnant, she refused to help. And now that she's rich, she acts like I don't even exist." The comments flooded in. Poor boy, how can a mother do that? She must be heartless. It spread like wildfire. His follower count grew by the hour. Viewers sent donations, some even sent gifts. He started selling t-shirts with phrases like "A mother should love, not leave." It was surreal. He had turned himself into the perfect victim and me the villain. I received angry emails, hate messages, even threats. For a moment I thought about staying silent, letting it pass. But then I saw it, a clip of him saying, "I don't even want money, I just want her love," and I broke because that wasn't true. Not once during our last conversation did he ask for love or forgiveness or even a second chance. All he wanted was my money, so I made a decision. That night I registered a live stream channel of my own. The title, "So This Is the Mom Who Abandoned Brian." I opened with a simple message. "Hi, I'm the woman he's been talking about. I know you've heard his version. Now let me show you mine." I sent a few thousand in donations to a stream, just enough to get attention. Then I posted, "Tonight I'm giving away $100,000. Come hear the truth." Within minutes, viewers flooded in, and for the first time I told my side, so I showed scan documents, adoption records, medical bills, tuition receipts, photos from his childhood. I explained how I had raised him alone, paid for everything, chosen him over my own life, and I played a recording in his voice arranging for me to work as a live and assistant for a stranger just to keep funneling money into his household. The chat exploded. "She's not cruel, she's a survivor. This is financial abuse, not abandonment. He used her like an ATM. Good for her for walking away." And then came the final blow. I revealed that Brian was not my biological son, that I found him in an orphanage, abandoned and sick, and I chose to love him anyway, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. The room went silent, the screen on fire. And that's when everything began to shift. The backlash was immediate. Brian's stream, once full of sympathy, turned into a battlefield. Comments poured in like a flood. "You lied to all of us. You used her kindness to fund your life, then threw her away. This is not heartbreak. This is manipulation." People unsubscribed by the thousands. His donations dried up. Sponsors pulled out. Even the platform issued a statement. His account had been permanently suspended for violating community guidelines. But I wasn't finished. With my lawyers' help, I filed a formal lawsuit. Defamation, harassment, emotional distress, We demanded financial compensation and an official public apology. The court ruled in my favor. Brian was found guilty of digital defamation and cyberbullying. He was fined, forced to pay legal fees, and barred from ever posting about me again. His voice, the same one that painted me as a monster, was silenced by the very system he tried to manipulate. And I was finally free, not just legally, but emotionally. No more fear, no more guilt, no more questioning whether I had done enough. Because now the world knew I didn't walk away because I lacked love. I walked away because loving him had nearly destroyed me, and now, for the first time in decades, I could finally begin again, this time on my own terms. After the dust settled, I sold both villas I had purchased during that chaotic phase chapter. The housing market was in my favor, and I walked away. A solid profit, but more than that, I walked away lighter, lighter in my heart, in my mind, in my soul. Eventually, I moved to a small lakeside town on the edge of the city. Not flashy, not famous, just peaceful. My days are simple now. I wake up to sunlight streaming through my windows. I drink coffee while watching birds glide over the lake. I garden, I paint, I read, without checking my phone every 5 minutes. There's a piano in my sunroom. I play whenever I want, not to impress anyone, not to prove anything, just for the joy of hearing music fill a quiet room. Nobody calls me mom just to ask for money. Nobody says when I say I'm tired. Nobody rolls their eyes when I offer help. For the first time, I feel like I belong to myself. Sometimes old friends ask me, "Do you regret adopting Brian?" And you know what? I don't, because what I gave was real, honest, pure. I didn't fail him, but I do regret not learning sooner that kindness without boundaries becomes self-destruction. Love is a gift, not a life sentence. It took me almost 60 years to figure that out, but I did. And now, in this quiet little corner of the world, I'm not a maid, I'm not a burden, I'm not a mother defined by her usefulness. I'm just me, and that finally is enough. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that love alone doesn't protect you. You can give someone your time, your money, your youth, even your entire life, and still be seen as disposable the moment you stop giving. That's not your failure. That's theirs. For years, I believe being a good mother meant sacrificing everything, and maybe in some ways it does, but the mistake I made was thinking I had no right to ask for respect in return. To anyone out there who's been taken for granted by your children, your partner, your family, hear me when I say this. You don't owe anyone your destruction in the name of loyalty. Your worth is not measured by how much you give until there's nothing left. It's okay to say no. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to choose yourself. Because when you finally do, the peace you find is priceless. If this story moved you or reminded you of someone you know, please share it, leave a comment, start a conversation. And if you've ever had to walk away from someone you love deeply, know that you're not alone, you're not cruel, you're courageous. Thank you for watching. Until next time, take care of yourself the way you've always taken care of others. You deserve that much at the very least.